Hello and welcome back to ETTO's Nerdcast. We've done one every week, apart from 1 week where I deleted the whole episode because it wasn't very good. I'm here again with...
Me! I am Sheep. Hello.
As always, he's always Sheep. Today we're going to talk about Solo, a Star Wars story, full of spoilers, so if you haven't seen the film, just go away. I'm going to do a spoiler-free review on the channel this week, so maybe just sit and wait there if you haven't seen it, or just go see the movie. Just see the movie.
Please do. First off, good movie.
I mean, we'll dive really head first in it, but yeah, we both like the movie, which shocks me. Not much for Josh, but...
Look, I like everything, but I think both of us were, and I think a lot of the world were kind of really unsure about this when it was first announced.
100%, and also just the dude as well. There's nothing to Alden Ehrenreich or whatever his name is. That is his name. I said it right the first time,
good.
but I say whatever his name is just in case I say it wrong. Everyone was like, really? That dude? Not all these really good impersonators on the internet? Everyone was just down on this film.
Yeah.
From the start.
And it seemed like he wasn't very good according to a lot of the stuff that was coming out of filming this.
Well, apparently he had an acting coach every day, which I think the thing is that makes it sound bad, but what it actually made was the best version of Han Solo possible, because the acting coach, rather than making him act, I assume was just filling in the gaps because he was pretty good.
Yeah, very true. But yeah, I think just when you first hear that the actor who is
the lead
actor has an acting coach on hand at all times while filming this film, you're like, doesn't sound too great. It's a kind of a scary thing. But man, it turned out quite good.
It's very clear. We both like it. Josh, just a brief overview of how much you liked it or whatever. Just speak for a bit.
Okay, I can try and do that. Going in, I went in with one of the last trailers I think they released was pretty good. It looked really, really fun in comparison to some of the earlier trailers and what we've been hearing leading up, as we've been talking about. So I went in with sort of mid hopes. I didn't want to go too high.
Yep.
I didn't want to go too low. I went in pretty neutral about it, and it seemed to hit all the good points. The comedy was great. And
it was Star Wars comedy. It wasn't Marvel comedy. It was the right kind of comedy.
Yes, absolutely. And most of the comedy was just Han being arrogant about being a really good pilot all the time, and just stuff like that.
And Chewie banter.
Yeah. It was very, like you said, it was totally Star Wars humor. Some of the dialogue at times I found to be corny, but I was like, this seems like Star Wars. Star Wars just has that little bit of corniness in it.
It turns off well-renowned actors like Alec Guinness.
Yeah.
That's what Star Wars dialogue has to do. Any Shakespearean actor has to go, for it to be the right kind of dialogue in Star Wars.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what else to say at this point in time. How about you? You go. You talk a bit.
Exactly the same, but probably times 10, because I lived and breathed Star Wars. For 4 months, I think I watched all of the trilogy just back to back on VHS. So it was just swapping in just watched them over and over. The originals, I don't think I watched the prequels until one day I had a haircut and they had Attack of the Clones, and I watched Attack of the Clones whilst I got my haircut done.
So this is obviously a long time ago, right? The way you just said that, it sounded like you were watching all of these on VHS leading up to this movie, just throughout this year.
For 4 months. 4 months straight.
That's what I thought you were just saying.
And then I went
and then you had a haircut.
And
I'm like, what the hell is this? Where is this going?
What is this story? Yes, as a child, for 4 months straight, my first experience of Star Wars was just watching the original trilogy back to back for 4 months.
Fantastic.
Straight. There you go.
Fantastic.
That's the story cleaned up. And the only thing that I liked about those films was Han Solo. So this film could have, the expression that I hate that everyone uses is it destroyed my childhood, because a film can't do that. Your memories of your childhood won't be destroyed by a film, but this film could have done.
Yes.
But it didn't. It was just... It treated his character, it treated every character with respect. I love that. I love the. This is the most original, like, and ironically, of course, it would be, but it's the most original trilogy Star Wars the Disney films have gotten. It's the closest to Star Wars that they nailed the entire tone of what made those original films so good. Obviously they didn't make any big risks, didn't take any big risks like The Last Jedi did, but they still, there's a burp. They still, there's another one. I think Kathleen Kennedy wants me to stop bad mouthing The Last Jedi. She's possessing my body, but at the same time they expanded the universe of Star Wars in such a unique way that it is the perfect. I think it's their perfect film. It's the perfect Disney Star Wars film out of the block that they've made so far.
Wow.
You
heard it. You heard it here, folks.
But let's start from the start, because I think no one expected how it started, which was brilliant. Having a Blade Runner-y kind of just text on the screen with a cool soundtrack falling in.
Words fading onto the screen instead of like a scroll or anything like that.
It set the tone of the film, because it is that kind of like somewhere between a Western and a heist film, and like the Blade Runner kind of feel. Like this film, the soundtrack is very Indiana Jones. Obviously, there's this Han Solo, and then this opening thing was kind of very Blade Runner. So it's certainly, this film is intended as a love letter to Harrison Ford, mainly just so he wouldn't sue them, probably.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was it was like refreshing, because it's a Star Wars film, and it felt from the beginning like a Star Wars film, but just seeing the words not scrolling but still having the words there in the first place is like, whoa, this is going to be something else.
We're doing something new.
It's going to be something else, something fresh. It's nice. It's good.
And just like the hard cuts of him turning his little speeder on and seeing his face, like, it was incredible how instantaneous he was Han Solo. Like, there was no point in this film where I was taken away from him.
Yeah, instant and consistent acceptance.
Probably halfway through is when it was entirely in. Like, at first it was just like, oh, he did that really well. Oh, that was really good. Oh, he did a good point there. Oh, his eyes are doing cool things. But about like half an hour in, I'd stopped doing that, and it was just...
You're just taking the movie in, yeah.
But yeah, I think the whole opening sequence I loved a lot. But I think it may be one of the few things that remained from the Miller, the other guys that wrote and directed it, because it felt very Lego Movie. Like, especially the clicky of the thermal detonator, and she's like, that's a rock! Like, it was very that kind of Lego Movie humor.
Yeah,
so
okay.
I feel like that whole opening sequence may have been what remained of them, because from that point on it was very dark but still humorous and light. But that whole opening was very upbeat and very... Yeah, it felt like a different director, but it fit seamlessly. But I think if one thing remained, it may have been that opening.
This changed directors, didn't it?
It did. So we got Ron Howard.
Right. I did not realize that.
Yeah. And this is actually the most expensive Star Wars film to make, because they basically had to double the budget because they reshot half of the film.
Fire. So did they shoot the whole film the first time, basically?
They had shot, I think the number was either half or 3/4 of the film had been shot.
Jeez. Far out.
So there is, and it's funny because Rogue One was very similar in the same way. The ending originally had Krennic on the beach, and everyone was firing upon each other on the beach. Like, it didn't end in the tower, and everyone was still alive, and it was actually like a shootout, like a Western, and then that dramatically changed. So it's almost the same kind of thing. So maybe it's the curse of these solo outside films, but whatever. They're still both the best films that they've made in this little Disney catalog.
Yeah, for sure.
But I loved that opening. I loved Proxima. Like, she was pure Star Wars, and the way she talked and the way Han was interacting with her, like that was the perfect setup. Like, that just got me into the film straight away.
Yeah, and all of the aliens there were like puppety looking physical aliens. Yeah. Perfect. So good.
This film it's just so Star Wars. But in that opening we do get Emilia Clarke and Kira, and I just that was when she becomes the agent of the Crimson Dawn. I think she's fine then, but just that introduction of her there is just very, it's over dramatic. Like that whole opening when Han's like crying at the gate, and I know it's because it's not the Han we know yet, it's not the hardened Han, but it's just like, it was really confronting seeing him like crying and screaming out someone's name. That bit was it was so dramatic. But as I said, it's still my favorite Star Wars movie, so it's clearly not my favorite one. It's like my third favorite, but clearly doesn't hurt the film. But that was very odd.
Yeah. Because like Han just generally sort of doesn't care about stuff. In all the other movies, he's like quite a chill sort of dude who doesn't seem to like entirely care about anyone in particular other than like Chewie.
Yeah, so seeing from the start of this film how intertwined he was with this other character, and you know, only getting like 5 minutes of that, it was very hard to accept straight away. Like seeing it the second time, it was fine, but it was very different to his character, and we didn't get much time to accept that and understand it. But whatever.
But then we had like another hour and a half.
It was another 2 hours. Yeah.
So good.
I've never laughed and smiled and almost cried in a film that when he's like, "We'll have you in the air in no time," the Imperial officer, and then it just hard cuts to war, and like Han like, like it was, I lost it because it was it was just perfect.
Yeah, it was so good because he's in the infantry, he's on the ground now, he's not actually even.
Yeah, and he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
But actually, just before that, we do get the origin of his name, which could have been worse.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. It was fine.
I didn't love it, but I was also like, fine.
Yeah.
That establishes something that I didn't ever care about, but that's fine.
I just assumed his name was Han Solo. It's almost like partially biblical, I guess. Like in Bible days, they didn't have last names. They were just like this person from this location. And that's sort of what he says.
Yep.
Like he says, I'm Han from here. No, he says I'm Han, but I'm not from anywhere. So they give him they give him a last name instead, like a thing to belong to, which was himself.
That's a good way of. I like that. Now it's even better.
There you go. You're welcome. You're welcome, Internet.
You made that. Thank you for that. But then we get this war sequence, which is so different to Star Wars, but it's what we were promised with Rogue One, but never really got. But they basically did the war aspect of Rogue One better in like 2 minutes.
And it's straight up war. Like it just looks like an Earth war.
Yeah. Trench warfare. I love the shot of the ATS, the AT-AT or whatever, dropping down from the sky. Like, it was beautiful. It was the Star Wars. It's Battlefront come to life. It's like Battlefront without the shit DLC and paid transactions.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good link to it.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
It's a little sneaky one, but fun fact: the Solo DLC thing, it hasn't even. They're like, well, it'll come out with Solo. It hasn't come out with Solo.
Come on, guys.
Just cancel the game and go back to that cool one that was going to be made by the Uncharted 4 people.
We were talking about that at work today. For like half of our lunch break, we were just talking about how disappointed we are that game isn't coming out anymore.
Why is there a game made by the Call of Duty people coming out instead now? What is that about?
Like, it's probably going to be a Battle Royale game. Like, honestly, what's the bet that it's going to be a Battle Royale game?
There's no way. Like, the two biggest franchises at the moment is probably actually Marvel, but I mean, Marvel's already embedded itself in Fortnite with Thanos, but yeah, why wouldn't they throw those two things together?
Why not?
I love the introduction of Beckett and his crew.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was so, like, here's the thing, right, with this film, the things I was expecting is, you know, Han being young and rebellious. I was expecting him meeting Lando and winning the Falcon. I was expecting Beckett to die because he's the Obi-Wan of this film. I was expecting the Kessel Run, and I was expecting, meeting Chewie and stuff. But the thing is, every single thing I was expecting was done differently.
Yeah.
Like, either done differently or done better than I could have ever imagined. It blew me away because I was so happy to be shocked constantly.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think I'd thought about everything that was going to happen in this movie so much.
There are all the elements that when the Han Solo film was announced, it was like, here's all the things that have always been teased in Star Wars, so assumedly we'll get them.
Yeah, so continuing on with the introduction of those characters, I had totally forgotten that Miss Westworld was going to be in there.
Yeah.
When I saw her, I was...
And Favreau.
And what?
And Jon Favreau.
Is that the little guy?
Yeah,
no
man.
No way. Oh my gosh.
So when I heard the voice, I was like, oh yeah.
Far out. Nah, I missed that. That's great. I thought I recognized the voice, but I'm like, no, I'm not going to pick that guy.
It's Happy. It's Happy in a little suit.
Freaking Happy. That's amazing.
But yeah, totally. Thandie Newton.
Thandie?
That's her name.
Her name is Thandy?
I'm pretty sure. I mean, that's how it's spelled. Maybe it's Tandy, and the H is silent, which is stupid.
Could be an electronics
you know what?
store in
It's
Australia.
definitely Tandy.
Who knows?
Exactly.
Well, one that probably closed down, I think. I haven't heard about them for a while.
But yeah, we get introduced to to Beckett's crew in such a cool way, because at first you're like, oh, they're stormtroopers, they're part of the Empire too. Like, it's going to be... They've formed a crew within the Empire or something, but then it turns out that they've infiltrated it, and it's like, yeah, it was constantly, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, like, they've somehow, everyone thinks that, like, everyone just believes that he's a captain, and someone dies, and then they're like, well, you're in charge now. It's like, how the hell did he get there? You would think, like, the army people would know who their captain
be like,
is.
that doesn't look like Joe.
Yeah, like, what? Like, this guy just comes out of nowhere and is like, yep, I'm a captain. And everyone's like, sweet.
That's definitely him. Yeah.
Bizarre, but anyway.
And also to the point where he can go, throw him into the pit with the monster. Like, that seems like a big step for someone you've just decided is the captain to be able to basically sentence one of your people to death.
Yeah, why not? And then leading on to that, amazing. So good. What a great reveal. Basically, Han is sort of, what's he doing? He's sort of trying to throw Beckett and the other crew under the bus a little bit. But Beckett outranks him and basically is like, nah, this guy's lying, not me. Throw him into the pit with the beast. And everyone's like, okay, you're the captain, I guess. Let's do that. So he throws it into the beast. And who's the beast?
It's
Freaking
Chewie.
Chewie. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Oh, it was the greatest thing because what the books before Disney killed them all off had always said that Chewie was a slave or he was, in prison somewhere, and so this is the best. It's such a clever twist on that because it's still true, but it's so unexpected because, like, you don't think of Chewie as the Beast, so they keep saying the Beast, and you're like, oh, I assume it's like a Wampa or a Rancor or something, and yeah, it was beautiful.
It's brilliant. Yeah, as it walked out, like it almost looks like this malnourished, like wet, muddy sort of thing, and as it's walking out, I'm like, oh, that doesn't look like the Beast I was expecting. Wait a second.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, I know that Beast.
Freaking brilliant.
And it's just, this film has so much heart. Like, as soon as Chewie's there, you're smiling, even though you're like, oh, they don't know each other yet, but you're like, I know where this is going, I want to see how this... And it's beautiful, because as soon as he, like, tries to do Wookiee, you're like, oh, that's why they love each other. Like, he always has tried to be his friend from the start. He's like, it was beautiful. Yeah. It was better than I could have ever imagined, and I'm so glad that we know what that is now, and I never thought I would want to see that.
Yeah. No, it was so good. I was like, I was a little confused throughout it because I'm like, okay, he's speaking Wookiee, and he knows how to speak Wookiee, but from then on, he speaks English.
What I take from it is it never gets talked about, but possibly what it is, because, by Empire and by a Jedi, everyone's talking to Chewie. I assume what it is Chewie just doesn't trust people, and he doesn't respond to English. Like, he can always understand English and give and respond back in Shirawuk is the language. So the way that Han affirms their connection is that because he can talk Shirawuk and Chewie begins to like him, that's why they talk to each other. And Han already knows Shirawuk, so when he hears Chewie talk, he's able to translate that and doesn't need to talk back to him in Shirawuk.
Yeah, right. One thing I was thinking about it, which seems like a pretty dumb sort of thought, but I was just like, I'm just gonna like imagine that the movie is just translating Han speaking the Wookiee language, Chirawuk or whatever it is. But we just hear it in English the whole time. But actually, in reality,
that's
he's
the
just
logic
like,
of Doctor Who.
That was it. that was my Chirawuk impression. Everyone,
that was horrendous.
I don't think I've ever tried to
even
do a Wookiee impression. So
that was
you're
incredible.
welcome. And world first right there.
Please never do that again. You just
Look,
moaned into my
just,
ear.
yeah. I'm just gonna stop there.
Yeah, from there, he helps. They escape in a great, perfect Han Chewie moment where, Chewie is aggressive and he punches Han in the head, that forces him through a pole and falls down. And the two stormtroopers on top were like pure. I like that Star Wars has taken those two dudes, the only moment it's ever happened. Those two stormtroopers in Episode 4 that are just chatting really relaxed and very human. And I like that that's now how stormtroopers act when they're not in war. Like, they're just very chatty and, like, dude, bro, with each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's actually, for the nerds among us, there's a line as Beckett and Han are walking through the trenches just after the little war scene. One of the troopers like, I heard they retired the T-15. And the T-15 is the thing in Episode 4 when they're chatting about something. Like, that's been an ongoing joke. There's a bit in Rogue One where they're like, oh, did you hear that they've replaced the T-13 with the T-14? And then in Force Awakens, there's a line where they're like, hey, did you hear the T-16's outdated? Like, it just keeps rolling through, so it was cool to hear another one of those.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. I did not know that.
It's one of Star Wars' little obscure jokes.
Of course.
But yeah, then they break out and, there's a great moment. I don't want to recite the plot, but that opening, the first act just sets up Han, it sets up Beckett's crew, which, I mean, the crew doesn't stick around very long.
It's true.
But I don't want to recite the plot, but, stuff happens. Let's just talk about the bits we liked.
Indeed.
What was your favourite bit of the film? And then we'll dive in a little bit deeper to other bits, but do you have a favourite bit?
Favourite bit of the film? I've got to think.
Okay, you've got to think.
I always have to think.
I think my favourite bit was the Kessel Run, because, again, a thing I didn't ever want to see in Star Wars was the Kessel Run, because it's always the joke of, I did it in 12 parsecs and stuff, and it was like, I never need to see that, but it was impossibly fun. Like, it was so much fun. It was seeing the Falcon in its prime, flying around and doing crazy shit. It was everything I wanted from that bit. The music was, like, I went and saw this in New Zealand. The first time I saw it twice in New Zealand over the course of like 12 hours. The first time I saw it was in the evening, and I think there was like 4 other people in the cinema. I don't understand why, but the 4 other people were sitting, two on one side of me and 2 on the other side. The rest of the cinema was empty. I don't understand why they didn't fucking move. But
Did you have assigned seating?
Yeah, but it was like the cinema's empty, guys.
I guess people can move around, but and that seems weird because you saw it release day. 4 people.
No one else was there. This was the latest session, but whatever, I don't get it. But I was by myself, and in the Kessel Run scene, I multiple times went, and like just clapped and I was like, I don't give a shit what these, because in that sequence we get the TIE Fighter escape theme from A New Hope, and we get the asteroid field theme from Empire Strikes Back, which are my 2 favorite moments in Star Wars prior to that, are those 2 bits. So hearing those themes melded with Han's new theme and Chewie's new theme, like, I was reeling, and the way the Falcon moved, and Han's when the TIE Fighter comes up alongside it and he just flips the Falcon and knocks it into an asteroid. Yeah, that got me so hard.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, okay. Great. Everyone imagine it.
Yeah, everyone imagine how hard it was. And also in that scene is one of my favourite lines from the whole film, which is Woody Harrelson going, "The cannons are gone, and I hurt my thumbs."
It's such a bizarre line.
It was...
Oh, it's great.
Like, and he's like rubbing his thumbs and slightly crying, and it was like,
It's so good.
Yeah, both times I just lost it at that. It was just so unexpected.
Yeah. And just then you were just talking about the score a little bit, and I just want to quickly, before I mention my one part that's stuck out to me, was right at the beginning in the opening sequence when they're still escaping, and they're trying to get out the gates where all the crowds of people are. There is an ad for being a stormtrooper, and the music for the ad is the Imperial March.
Yeah, in like a almost major key.
Yeah, but it's like you can tell that it's part of this ad that's playing in the background. That's like, be a stormtrooper, ba 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 da. It's like, what is happening? That is so bizarre. That music actually exists in their world.
What I didn't realize, I completely forgot about it, but there's an episode of Star Wars Rebels called Empire Day, and Empire Day, I can't remember what it is. I think it's like the day that the Empire is formed.
Okay.
And in that episode, they play a major version of the Imperial theme as like their anthem. I completely forgot that happened. So when that happens in the movie, I was like, oh wow, so that wasn't just like music in Rebels. It's like a fun thing. Like the Empire's actual theme, like you said, in the real world is the Imperial March. Like,
it's so bizarre.
They know that exists.
That made me giggle a little bit. So yours was the Kessel Run, but mine I think would be like just the actual heist, the Kessel heist. Just going into the mine and breaking everyone out. It just had such a good mix of action and humor. So did, like, as did most of the film. But
yeah, that bit was perfect.
Yeah, it was so fun. Like, you have you've got like the robots being liberated, and all of that was just funny and silly and whatever.
The little guy like standing on top of the control panel, just like stomping on top of it.
It's so good because Han's like, "What is happening up there?" And you just see all these robots just going absolutely insane because they're free. It's so bizarre.
Yeah,
you've got Chewie finding other Wookiees to save, which aren't his wife. Spoiler alert.
No, they're no one related.
That was such a quick, like in the trailer, it looked like it was such an important thing. Them putting their heads together.
Yeah, but it was just him saying,
yeah,
good
it was
luck.
just like, bang, done. Like, it was just over, and that was it, and you don't see another Wookiee again.
Well, no, they just made a lot of Wookiees because it was bang and done.
Yep. They are all now pregnant.
Yep.
By Chewie's headbutt with another Wookiee.
It's like a hive mind. It's a hive uterus.
And apparently every other Wookiee is female.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Chewie is the ultimate alpha male.
Oh man, he's the only alpha male apparently.
Let's move on.
Yeah, that whole sequence was just super fun, and then they got on the ship, and then cue Will's favorite part.
Exactly. It was back to back. One of the best Star Wars bits.
Yeah,
was those two.
Yeah, the heist and the escape were just so good.
Perfect.
So cool.
And the heist is also like, again, a nice little... It's almost a love letter to all of Harrison Ford's stuff. Like, it's very Indiana Jones, kind of like Temple of Doom, the mine sort of stuff. And, like, the way... And it happens a few times. Han being in disguise never really happened in... Apart from, like, Stormtrooper in Star Wars. But Indiana Jones, whenever he went somewhere, he'd always, like, disguise himself as a soldier. So seeing Han, like, take a jacket and put a hat on is, like... It helped see Harrison Ford there. Because you were like, those are things that Harrison Ford has done as a character, and it was very good.
Yeah. And just another, like, great line
Yep.
During the heist, when Chewie rips off the guard's arms, and Han's just like, that was the suit that was going to fit me perfectly, but whatever. Such a good line.
Chewie just like, and just throws the arms over his head.
It's so good. It's so silly.
Yeah. And like him walking up to that guard, and he's like, rah, 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 rah. And he's like, rah, 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 rah. That's what I said.
That was so good, and it was that's another Harrison Ford thing.
Harrison Ford.
It's so perfect.
I think within that sequence we get a good beat from L3 and Lando. So we should just briefly talk about Donald Glover's Lando. It took me more time to accept him than Alden.
Okay.
I don't know. When he first started talking, it was kind of, what's the thing? Like Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One. What's the Uncanny Valley? Like his voice was like so close to Billy D. Williams that it felt weird to hear.
Yeah. Okay.
Like it almost sometimes felt over the top, but it was perfect because by the end of it, the same way you accept it entirely. But he was just so Lando that it was it felt more like an impersonation than Alden's Han did.
Yeah. Every now and again, I would
Yeah.
I would just see see Lando smile, and I would just think of the Childish Gambino "This Is America" music video where he's like dancing without a shirt on.
Yeah, it was kind of untimely that video came out so close to
Yeah,
Solo.
yeah,
Both great and terribly, because that was so in your mind. Seeing
yeah.
him.
Because it's such a meme. Like it just got memed so quickly, and then this came out, and you're just seeing the meme face all over this film.
Yeah,
But yeah, he was really good. I really enjoyed him, and just how well Lando and Han connected and bounced off each other throughout the film.
like the line when they're looking at the Falcon at the end, and he's like, "I hate you," and in my mind I was like, "Oh please," and then Han says, "I know," and I was like, "Oh."
I was thinking about about that line, and I was going to bring it up, but I couldn't remember what the actual line was. Like I knew the
Yeah.
"I know" part, and I'm like, Will's going to know it,
Yeah,
and I'm sure he'll probably bring it up anyway. But yeah, I loved that as well.
L3, she was the Rose of this film, if Rose was at all likable.
Yes.
Because it's just kind of like you're either gonna love her or you're gonna hate her.
Yeah, I was very unsure to start with. I was not heaps keen, with her to start with.
She's very in your face.
She is, yeah. She's just sort of like the token black chick. Like,
Even though she's a very white English lady that does the voice.
really, she's such a sassy woman. I'm imagining like a ain't nobody got time for that sort of chick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was very unsure, and I think I still am. I don't know how sold I am, but how'd you go?
I was exactly the same. Like, I liked the essence of her, and like her, freeing all the droids was brilliant. But it was just so crammed down your throat, and like the idea of, I sent you a photo of because what it is Lando making love to the robot. It's like it's a funny idea, and it's a big universe that's gonna happen somewhere, and it makes sense, But it was like, did I need to know that?
It's almost not even proven, because he seems so sort of over her at times.
Yeah. It was like, with a lot of films, there's I'm sure, there's half a film deleted from this, but there'll be deleted scenes. I think a deleted scene that could have been deleted was Kira and her talking about that bit, because it went nowhere and just didn't fit the film. So yeah, L3, not the best character, but visually though, incredible, because it's an amazing meld of CG and practical, because you can see photos of the actress in a costume. So she wore a headpiece and a chest piece and legs, and they CG'd in the rest of the robotic bits.
Wow.
The head is very practical, and that's why it kind of looks in a way that is impossible to CG. Like, she looks directly and kind of very organically at people, and it was great to see, because it was like seeing C-3PO for the first time when you're a kid. You're like, whoa, that's a real robot.
Yeah. It actually, to me, she looked a lot like a humanoid version of R2-D2. Like, if R2-D2's head just kind of popped off and arms and legs came out and it stood up, like, it almost looked to me like an R2-D2 type thing.
Totally, yeah.
Quite
true.
strange. So, her name was L2, yeah? L3?
L3, yeah.
After Rogue One was K2. So they're just, like, increasing the letter and number. Because it goes KL and then 2 and 3. As soon as they said her name, that was all going through my head. I'm like, there's a pattern here. It's mathematical.
Wow.
It's got to be.
That I didn't even think of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was like the first thing I thought of when they said L3.
So that means Boba Fett will have a robot that has a 4.
M4? Which is a gun?
Yeah, which totally... Maybe that's his gun.
It could be, just an M4.
Droid. But anyway, moving on to Dryden Voss, Vision, when he's in human form. He was so cool. He was such a unique Star Wars villain.
Yeah, he was good. It was good to see him playing a villain this time instead of like a pushover robot.
Yeah, this is he was the perfect he is the British villain to an American film. The way he's so calm and collected, he's always almost on edge, and Paul Bettany did an incredible job, and I'm sure Have you heard the story of how he got the role?
No.
Because he met his wife, Jennifer Connelly, Suit Lady, on another Ron Howard film. That's how they met. And so he's good friends with Ron Howard, obviously. And he sent a message to Ron Howard when he found out he was directing and went, hey, have you ever just sat somewhere and thought, wouldn't it be great to be in a Star Wars film? And Ron Howard sent him a message back and said, we'll see what I can do.
That's so
Which
good.
is funny. Because in the original pass of this film, Dryden Voss was played by, I think, an actor called Michael K. Williams, and for reshoots, his schedule got conflicted and he couldn't reshoot any bits that he needed to, so they recast it. And so obviously Ron Howard was like, oh, I know.
Wow, interesting. So the entire bad guy was reshot.
Originally the bad guy, and I guess it was changed for this reason also for time, it was a lot more of a CGI alien-looking character.
Right.
So they changed him dramatically.
Interesting. And just for those who are unsure why we're talking about robots and suit ladies, Paul Bettany plays Jarvis and also the Vision in the Avengers MCU. And Suit Lady, his wife, who is, what's her name again? The actress?
Jennifer Connelly.
Jennifer Connelly plays Suit Lady, or Karen, who is the suit inside Spider-Man's Spider-Man Homecoming suit.
But so Paul Bettany did a brilliant job with Dryden Voss, and I liked his kind of creepy persona next to Emilia Clarke's Kira, because you were never quite sure how she felt with her role in the whole thing. Like, it was always this tension whenever he walked into the room. Right at the end of the film when Han and Chewie walk in with the briefcases with the stuff, and he's just chilling there, and he's like, "Oh, hello," and then because of course later on you find out that Beckett's already told him that they're coming. It's just he's such an ass. He's such an ass.
Yeah, he does it so well. He's a good sneaky bad guy. I dig it. And like you said, like just British and relaxed, but so evil.
And speaking of a sneaky villain, which is, I think, what you said, or sneaky bad guy?
Something like that. I can't remember. It's been too long.
There's three things that led me to this, but also I was still entirely shocked, as was anyone who didn't go on the internet before seeing this film. Because, of course, and again, spoilers, if you've made it, 45 minutes into this, what are you doing? But we get a reveal that the head of the Crimson Sun is, of course, Darth Maul. Which was
so good.
Incredible. And Darth Maul, he's physically played by Ray Park, who played him in Phantom Menace, Phantom of the Opera, Phantom of the Menace. But voiced not by the guy that played the pompous Nova Guard in Guardians of the Galaxy. I can never remember his name. But not voiced by him this time, but voiced by Sam Witwer, who voiced him in Clone Wars and in Rebels. So which warmed my heart, because I heard his voice. I was like, yes, we're absorbing what we have created outside of these films. So it was, and we'll get to more when we want to talk about him. But sneaky villains. The fact that Dryden used like a double-ended thing, his double-ended knives.
Yes, when that came out, I was like, oh, that's so Morley, and also like they have like knife sabers.
Yeah,
I was like, what the heck? How does that exist? But yeah,
it's so cool. So cool. But yeah, so that was a little hint that obviously seeing it the first time you wouldn't pick up on it, but it was like, that's very Darth Maul-y. But the bit that I was like, huh? Was when they're falling into, well, when they connect, L3 dies, they connect L3 into the Falcon, and L3 keeps saying, warning everyone of the Maw, or the mum, or something, but I kept thinking she was saying the Maw.
Yeah, me too.
Like the Darth Maul.
Yes.
And so I was like, are we about to get Darth Maul? Is Darth Maul just chilling somewhere? Ooh, and it
Imagine
wasn't.
if he was just floating in space, like in front of the, like just in the Maw for some reason, or he was the Maw.
He was the Maw. Like it was absorbing his energy and creating this weird vortex or something.
Yeah, like he's just floating there, like in the middle of nowhere, in like the offskirts of Kessel, just sort of floating. Like,
yeah,
imagine that. That would be great.
That's exactly what I thought we were about to get, and then it wasn't. And then when he turned up, I was like, man, movie, just choose. Is he in this movie or is he not?
And then he was, and it was so good. What a cool thing.
What a reveal.
After like
chilling.
After so many like twists, that were like super predictable twists. Just that the whole end sequence where like everyone's good, but then they're bad, but then they're good, and then they're bad.
And then to have more at the end, and the music, it kills me. It's not on the soundtrack, but the music under it is like a very drawn out version of Duel of the Fates. Like when he pulls back his hood, it's like womp 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 womp.
Yeah, okay, nice.
Which excited me. And then when I listened to the soundtrack and it wasn't on there, and of course it's because they don't want to spoil it, but it's like, if you're listening to the soundtrack, you've probably seen the film, or you don't care.
And that basically wraps up the whole movie, other than them like flying off.
Pretty much.
Well, going and meeting, getting Lando and then flying off.
Which was that was perfect. That sequence was...
It was, again, yeah.
It was so heartwarming. Like, this film, you know, unless it was deeply emotional, it was like just... It was the perfect... It was like a Star Wars breakfast. It was just full of sugar and, like, everything you want in the morning.
Do you just want sugar in the morning? It seems like a bad idea.
That's the opposite of... I don't even eat breakfast until, like, 11 o'clock, so...
By that, it's pretty much lunch.
It's the opposite. Well, yeah, but you can have 2 lunches.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, that end sequence was beautiful.
It was done really well and sort of solidifies their connection and their friendship. It's like they start off basically being angry and stuff, and then they just start laughing about it. It's so good.
Yeah, and the way they hug is the Empire hug, where, you know, Lando walks up to him really like, well, it's kind of the reverse. Han walks up to him really pissed off looking, and does the hug, and it's like this really jabby, aggressive hug. And in Empire, it's Lando that walks up to him really aggressively, and then they do that same kind of hug.
Yeah, right.
So it's funny seeing that.
That's cool.
Over again.
Very, very cool.
And something else this film clears up, because the writers of this film were Lawrence Kasdan and his son, which I can't remember what his first name is. And Lawrence Kasdan wrote Force Awakens. I think he wrote Raiders, and he wrote Empire Strikes Back. So he's written the best films. And one of the things that he clears up, because maybe he got pissed off with Billy D. Williams, but in Empire Strikes Back, and in Star Wars in general, Lando is the only person that calls Han, and so that's why in the Sabak scene, when Han calls it Sabak, and then Lando just refuses to call him Han, and it was again a moment that we didn't need, but thank you anyway.
Yeah. I love the sequence where he's like, it's like, oh, Han, it's Han, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's so good. That was such a good line.
Yeah, this film just nails everyone, which is a very weird thing to say.
Just like Chewie. We've come back around.
Chewie nailed everyone. I'm just going to read you my notes before I just ask where you think this film is leading us. So I've got just the notes that I was taking whilst I was in New Zealand. The first one is a quote from Zara as we left Hobbiton. She said, because I think she said something wrong, and I was like, really? And she said these words: "Why even try? Just give up."
That's a very you thing to say.
Very funny. You know what just happened? I just went through all the phrases I could have used to describe what I've done, and all of them sounded incorrect. Because what I was going to say rubbed off, other ones as well. Like, you know what I mean?
Nailed everyone.
I nailed everyone in Hobbiton. Up next, this is just before the film started, there was a Jurassic World trailer, and there was a couple beside me, and the lady was like, "Oh, is that like the old ones?" And the guy went, "It's a bit like the originals, but not, and with Chris Pratt." And it was like, that's not, you haven't sold the new Jurassic World in any way there. You've said it's not the same film, but it has Chris Pratt. And then I had "The cannons are gone" quote, because I love that quote. But my second favorite funny line, apart from all the Chewie lines, is when Han goes, "We'll find a ship, but we've already got a pilot." And he's like so happy and so sure of himself.
Yeah.
Like, it was the perfect Harrison Ford again.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, that's one of the things I love, is just his consistent arrogance throughout this whole film about how good of a pilot he is.
And of course he shows everyone off, and he actually is an amazing pilot. But it's like, yeah, it's the Han Solo thing of being so sure of himself.
Yeah. Just from the start, he he just assumes everything will work out and that he's just the best.
But that's all on my notes there. But so the looking into the future, we know that. Well, I mean, it seems very sure that we're getting a Boba Fett film by old mate Logan, writer director, and also, I mean, it's pretty certain that we'll get an Obi-Wan film in the future. But I feel like what we could get, and this is just my theory from this film, and it just depends on where they would put Obi-Wan in their release schedule. But I feel like, next year we've got the conclusion to the trilogy that J.J. Abrams started, and that'll be the close of, I think, the Skywalker saga. Because, Luke's gone, Leia will not be there, Han will not be there. I think it'll be the close of that a 3-trilogy arc, and we won't do that sort of thing again. But I think this film is setting up a trilogy. It's, and I think that each film will, in the same way a kind of a TV series works, each film will be separate, but will end up tying all together. So we've got this film, which sets up Han, it sets up Chewie, and it sets up the Crimson Sun with Darth Maul and Kira. And then we've got the Boba Fett film, which I think, because a lot of people want it to be set after Return of the Jedi, and maybe it will be, Boba's escape, but what if it actually is in the same way, kind of where Boba went after his dad died and stuff, and the job that Beckett is like, there's something on Tatooine, which was a great line as well, and it's clearly Jabba the Hutt, and Jabba the Hutt, is after Han's money all through the original trilogy, and in the original trilogy we find out that it's because Han dropped some cargo, and they lost money like he did in this film, which I thought was going to be that thing, like Jabba was giving them the big heist and he ended up dropping that cargo, but it wasn't what it
seems
was.
Like almost the same like group of people kind of thing, like there's just one guy that's sort of I totally agree with you. I hadn't thought about it, not being as in tune with the Star Wars movies as you are, but just you saying it then, I'm like, hey, yeah, it totally could have been a Jabba the Hutt thingy.
That's where I thought it would have been. But, so what I think the Boba Fett film might be, is that Boba Fett takes a job from Jabba and he's like, I've set up a crew. Obviously, he says it in Jabba speak. I've set up a crew, there's some people you work with, and it'll probably be Boba Fett. It'll probably be one of the obscure bounty hunters from Empire that are in that lineup, and I think it'll be Han and Chewie, and I think that's where we get more Alden and Chewie, and they are on a job, and the reason that Boba Fett hates Han is something happens in this Boba Fett film, and that's where Han drops the cargo. So not just Jabba wants money from Han, but Boba Fett hates Han because he dropped the cargo and he didn't get his cut, and I think so that Boba Fett film will continue the Han Solo story, and in there we'll also get a bit more Darth Maul, and then the third film will be like Maul or something, and it'll be all about that, and it'll be the wrap-up of that, and Han will pop in, and Boba Fett, so it'll be a 3-part thing, the focus on different characters, but it all ties into this Crimson Sun side story that they set up in this film, is my idea.
That would be really cool. I'm almost feeling like a Marvel thing, so they're going to have all these solo movies, pardon the pun, and then it'll lead into like a joint one later where it's like Han and Boba and
Boba Fett and stuff,
Obi-Wan and just everyone together. That would be pretty cool. But
at the same time, the one problem would be that Han can't meet Obi-Wan and he can't meet Maul because he doesn't believe in the Force. So that's the one tricky thing.
Yes. He could potentially somehow be involved without them ever meeting, because I love it when
because he's got Kira.
Yeah, it's almost like Westworld does that. There's like so many side stories happening at once that all contribute to the main story, but they never cross.
But yeah, so that's my idea, and taking the idea like you said of Marvel, I think they could do a similar kind of Infinity War thing with Maul being the main character, and because Maul from Rebels and from Clone Wars, they make him more like Thanos, a villain you can understand. So I think that could be cool, because I'm sure there are people that watched Solo and were like, didn't he die? So I think they have to do something so the public kind of understand it. Although in the film, I do like that they draw attention to his metal legs, like when he stands up, it's like "Nyeh."
Who was that?
Darth Maul. So when he stands up, you can hear the robotic legs as he stands up.
That
so
is
it's like
just so something Will would notice. I did not notice that at all.
yeah. So
Oh,
you
man.
see and hear him, and it's kind of like it's for the general audience. So when they're like, "But didn't he cut?" and it's like, "Oh, okay. So apparently he has robot legs." Okay.
Right.
So it's for the general audience. They don't have to know the big, massive backstory,
okay.
but they can see that something
Cool.
happens.
From your point of view, being uber Star Wars dude, were there any connections, or do you think there'll be any sort of major connections back to Rebels and Clone Wars?
Well, I think, Darth Maul's a pretty big one. Just having him there with the voice of Sam Witwer is like a huge, like, hey guys, those things are real. But this is, again, like you said, big nerd. The model of ship that Han pretends to have is the same model of ship the Ghost is in Rebels, like the Rebels ship.
Okay.
So he was going to bargain their ship, which is pretty fun. But another cool, somewhat Clone Wars, but also just like a wider Star Wars thing is Lando says to Beckett, he's like, "Aren't you the guy that killed Aurra Sing?" And Aurra Sing is a bounty hunter in the Clone Wars series. She's also very, very briefly in Phantom Menace, and she's one of those prolific, kind of like Boba Fett, bounty hunters. So hearing her name was a great kind of prequel and Clone Wars stuff is actually still relevant. And in the same way in Last Jedi, when Luke says the word, I think he says what does he say? Palpatine or something. He says when he's talking about Darth Vader and all that stuff, he says Emperor Palpatine, which never got said in the original trilogy. It was a prequel thing. So that was like, oh shit, those movies. And hearing the word Kashyyyk and hearing the word Felucia, both planets that were only established in the prequel trilogy. So it's like, these films are going to be the films that are like tying things a little bit more and allowing the prequels to still be a part of the universe, and taking stuff from those films and making sure that you still have to watch them in your big rewatch.
Yeah, cool. There you go. I wouldn't have picked up on any of that, obviously, for very obvious reasons. But yeah, sick. Interesting to know. I like that they're tying in all of their different universes together. So if you are uber fan, you'd totally pick up on that, and you'd get a little more hard.
A little bit more hard. And also in The Last Jedi, originally, there was going to be a bit with a ghost Anakin played by Hayden Christensen. So it's very clear that we're not staying away from those things. And it's very clear also that Ewan McGregor has to be a part of it.
Yes. Hell yeah. That's
if we're dabbling in the prequels. Yeah.
Oh, please. That would be sick.
But yes, I don't think there's anything that I hated in this film. Maybe L3. That's kind of the only thing that I was like, and just the romance with Kira, but even that got pretty fine as the movie went on. It was a film that I walked away with such like pleasant feelings, whereas I still don't know what I feel about The Last Jedi, so I'm very happy.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I've found interestingly, this is quite a polarizing movie. People either really love it or really hate it. Well, people either like it or don't, or love it or don't. Annoyingly, I don't think I told you about this, and I've been waiting for this podcast to actually do this. And I'm calling out this person again. I mentioned him on my last podcast, and he was like, "Hey, you mentioned me on your podcast." And I was like, "Yes, I did." Got to do it again, but this time it's not a good thing, and I'm kind of annoyed, dude.
Oh.
He messaged me at 3:30 a.m. on Thursday morning that the movie was horrible.
Ah.
And that it was terrible. And I'm like, even if you don't tell me anything about the movie, you've pretty much just spoiled it, and now I'm going to go in with different expectations.
Really low, yeah.
So that was freaking annoying. But then, having accidentally seen some of your tweets, because I get notified on my phone about tweets that you've posted that I may have missed, and it just comes up.
Mm-hmm.
I read as little as I could of them, but I could tell that you liked it through those. So I'm like, well, I'm back to being neutral again.
Yeah, you're in the middle now.
Yeah, because after hearing that he didn't like it, I was like, oh, if Will doesn't like it, then it's probably going to be a pretty crap movie, blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, it seems to be, like, super, like, the consensus about this movie is polar opposites.
Yeah.
And one guy that I saw it with didn't enjoy it. A guy at work saw it with his brother and his brother's friend, and his brother and his brother's friend didn't like it, but he did.
Wow. I wonder what it is.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. It's interesting. I haven't looked too far into what people have said about like why they didn't like it. But yeah, it's an interesting one. So I'd be interested to know what our listeners thought of it and where they're sitting.
Let us know in the comments or wherever you're listening or watching this, because we want to know what you think, because it is a very strange one, because I think also it's not doing too well at the box office because just because of The Last Jedi and people's thoughts and feelings about that film, and also because it's come out 6 months after and not a year. I think a lot of people don't even realize it's out.
Yeah,
so
I don't think people really know that this thing is a thing. Like, it just says...
It's the same. It was just like Rogue One. People just missed it.
Yeah, like, it just says Solo everywhere. It's because it's not like Star Wars posted everywhere. It says Solo, and then, like, in little writing underneath, a Star Wars story or whatever.
Yeah. And also, the only thing Star Wars is Chewbacca on the poster.
Yeah, totally.
Also in like China or Japan, it's called Lieutenant Solo or something. Like, it's as far away from the word Star Wars as possible. It's just called that. It doesn't have a Star Wars story attached.
That's weird. What the heck?
Yeah.
That's so bizarre. All right, I think that's probably... I think that does it.
That's good. I think that's a wrap on Solo.
Yeah.
We'll talk about something else next week, because we're hitting a stride with these, and I don't think we should break them.
Yeah. I'm enjoying them.
Maybe we could talk about God of War, considering we both finished it as well.
Yeah, we can do that. We have slightly polarizing thoughts on that, so that'll be interesting.
Maybe it'll be that. Maybe it might be a comic book. Who knows? But if you have enjoyed this, make sure you can like us and follow us on SoundCloud or on YouTube, and we'll be pumping out some videos very shortly into your face, because I think both of us want to get back into this game a little bit more.
Yeah, totally. And I gotta get back into making videos again. It's been a while. You've kept it up.
I try to keep it up. Seeing Solo helps.
Yes, good. But we're on all the socials as well, guys. So jump onto our Facebook and Instagram, and we have... I think we're on Twitter, but we don't really use the ETTO Twitter, but we have separate Twitters.
We do.
That you can jump onto. Mine are generally sad lyrics, and Will's is generally most of his life. So
yeah, my life and exciting shows like, alright Westworld, you may suck for a good 50 minutes, but by Jove, do you know how to force people to keep watching with only 10 minutes to spare? Stuff like that.
Classic. So good. I need to get onto that show again.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll be back probably next week, and if not before then. And make sure you go see Solo if you haven't already. If you haven't already, what the f***?
Yeah.
Why are you here?
Yeah, you basically just watched all of it by listening to it.
Yep.
By listening to two
maybe
two
don't say
idiots.
It. Although do say it, because...
just fumble their way through the entire narrative.
We don't know what we do. Deadpool had to help out last week. Oh my god.
That was great.
But until the next one, it's the Doctor of Who, and I'm out.
And it is the sheep, and I am also out.